Hello students, let us begin our second part of the chapter 2, and the title of the second story is I Want to Drive a Car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I'll be a motor mechanic, he announces. In these lines, the writer met a boy named Mukesh who aspired to become a motor mechanic. Do you know anything about cars? I asked. She asked him if he knew anything about cars. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dreams looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fills his town, Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. In these lines, looking straight into my eyes, it means with confidence and determination. Looms like a mirage, it seems that it will be true in the future, but actually it will not be so. Amidst, it means in the middle of. Glass blowing industry, it means industry related to making glass. Furnaces, it means a closed room or a container where heat is produced. And welding, it means the process of joining metal or glass pieces by heating them. In this paragraph, the boy was confident and replied that he would learn to drive a car. His dream was far away from reality, and although the boy was confident he would succumb to the societal pressure, he lived in Firozabad, which was famous for glass bangles. The writer felt that the boy's dreams would not materialize and gradually get influenced by the dusty streets of Firozabad. She wanted to say that as every family in the town of Firozabad was involved in the glass bangle industry, so would Mukesh do with the passage of time. She tells us that Firozabad was the main town of India for the glass blowing industry. The families had been involved in working at furnaces, welding glass, and making bangles for generations. They made so many bangles that it seemed that they made bangles for all the women of the world. Mukesh's family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnace with high temperature in dingy cells without air and light, that the law it enforced could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slogged their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Here dingy, it means dark or dim. Slog, it means work hard. Daylight hours, it means hours of the day when there is a sunlight. Brightness of their eyes, here it refers to the power to see. Mukesh's family was also involved in the profession of glass bangle making. They were not aware of the law. They did not know that it was unlawful to force children to work in such glass furnaces. The workplaces were hot, dark, closed rooms without ventilation. The writer felt that if the law would come into force, it would rescue almost 20,000 children from these inhuman places where they were forced to work hard during the daytime. They often ended up losing their eyesight also. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. We walk down stinking lanes, choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. He stops at the door of one such house, bangles a wobbly iron door with his foot, and pushes it open. Here, beam, it means shine brightly. Volunteers, it means freely offers to do something. Stinking, it means bad smell. Chalked, it means blocked. Hovels, it means slums. Crumbling, it means falling down. Wobbly, it means unsteady. Coexisting, it means present at the same time and place. Primeval, it means prehistoric. And bangs, it means hits. Here Mukesh was happy as he took the writer to his home. He felt proud as he informed her that it was being renovated. They walked down streets which were full of garbage and gave foul smell, dirty smell. The streets were lined with slums which were unsteady. The walls were falling apart. The doors were unsteady. There were no windows and were full of families where people lived along with animals. They reminded the writer of the prehistoric man who lived just like animals. Mukesh stopped in front of one such door, hit it hard with his foot and pushed it open. We enter a half-built shack. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother, not much older in years. She has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of 3 men, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. Here, shack, it means a roughly built hut. Thatched, it means covered with dry grass. Vessel, it means container for cooking food. Sizzling, it means make a hissing sound when frying or cooking. Platters, it means large plates. Chopped, it means cut finely. Frail, it means thin or weak. Fragile, eyes filled with smoke. Here it refers to her eyes are filled with the smoke coming out of the firewood stove. Command respect, here it refers to she is the worthy and so is respected. The house where Mukesh lived was partially constructed hut. In one corner was a firewood stove made with dead grass. A vessel with spinach leaves was kept on it. On the ground there were more plates with chopped vegetables in them. There was a thin young woman cooking the evening meal for the family. Her eyes were full of the smoke emanating from the stove, but she was still cheerful and smiled to see the writer. She was the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Although she was not much older than Mukesh, she was a responsible person and was worthy to get respect from the family as the daughter-in-law of the family. She took care of 3 men, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. As custom demands, daughter-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then as a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his 2 sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles. Here withdraws, it means goes back. Veil, it means a piece of fine material worn by women to protect or hide the face, cover or hide. Here impoverished, it means very poor. Labor, it means hard work. Renovate, it means repair. In these lines, as Mukesh's father entered the house, the daughter-in-law hid behind the wall and covered her face behind her veil. It was a tradition for the daughter-in-law to hide their face in the presence of the older male members of the family. The elder here was a poor bangle maker. He had worked hard all his life, first as a tailor, then as a bangle maker. He was still not able to either renovate the house or send his sons to school. He had just managed to teach him the skill of making bangles. It is his karam, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Can a God given lineage ever be broken? She implies. Here, destiny it means fate. God given lineage, here it refers a profession carried on through the generations of a family, glass bangle making profession. Mukesh's grandmother justified her son by saying that he was destined to make bangles as it had been their family profession. She had seen her husband become blind due to the dust from polishing the glass bangles. She said that their family had got this art from bangle making from God, and so they had to carry on the tradition. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles. In the house, in the yard, in every other houses, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the 7 colors of the rainbow, lie in the mounds in unkept yards, are piled on four-wheeled handcraft, pushed by a young man along the narrow lanes of Santee town. Here, yard it means the open area at the back of the house. Mounds it means heaps. Unkept it means not taken care of. Piled it means kept one on top of the other. Shanty town it means a town that is full of small, roughly built huts. Here, they were born in a particular caste which had to follow the profession of bangle making. All their life they had just seen these glass bangles. They were everywhere, in the backyard, in the next house, in their yard, and even in the streets of the town. There were huge spiral bunches of bangles in different colors like gold, green, blue, pink, purple. There were bangles of all the colors of the rainbow. Further, the writer says that there were bangles in the neglected yards also. They were dumped on handcarts for sale. They were pushed by men along the streets of Firozabad. And in dark hutments, next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps, sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers welding pieces of colored glass into a circle of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adult. Here, welding it means joining. Here, the writer describes the environment where these bangles makers work. They were small dark huts. The children would sit next to a line of oil lamps whose flames were unsteady. They, along with their parents, joined the pieces of colored glass into a circle called bangles. As they spent a lot of time in the dark, their eyes would not adapt to the bright sunlight. Many of them lost their eyesight before gaining adulthood. Savita, a young girl in a drab pink dress, sits alongside an elderly woman, soldering pieces of glass as her hands move mechanically like the tongues of a machine. I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. It symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. Here, drab it means faded or colorless. Soldering it means joining. Tongs it means an instrument with two movable arms joined at one hand. Sanctity it means the state of being sacred or holy. Auspiciousness it means good omen. There was a young girl by the name of Savita. She wore a faded pink colored dress. She was sitting with an elderly woman and they were joining pieces of glass to make bangles. Her hands moved like a machine, just like the tongues of a machine. The writer wondered if Savita knew that bangles were sacred. They were a good omen for a woman's wifehood. It will dawn on her suddenly one day when her head is draped with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrist. She will then become a bride like the old woman beside her who became one many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist but no light in her eyes. In this line, dawn on her, it means she will realize, draped, it means covered. Here, she thought that Savita would realize this when she would become a bride. That day, she would cover her head with a red colored veil, color her hands with henna, and wear red colored bangles on her wrist. The elderly woman sitting next to Savita also became a bride many years ago. She was still wearing the glass bangles but had lost her eyesight now. एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया, she says, in a voice drained of joy. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That's what she has reaped. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in. Share here a unit of measuring quantity. Ripped, it means received as a benefit. In this line, the elderly woman complained that she had not eaten even a share of food. Share is a unit of measuring quantity. The woman wants to say that they are so poor that they cannot eat enough food. That is the benefit that she has received by adopting the profession of bangle making. The woman's husband has a flowing beard. He says that he does not know anything other than bangle making. All that he has been able to accomplish is to make a house for his family to live in. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what may have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. Here the writer wonders that probably the old man has achieved something which many other people have not been able to achieve. At least he has been able to secure a shelter for his family. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. The young men echo the lament of their elders. Little has moved with time. It seems in Firozabad, years of mind-numbing toil have killed all initiative and the ability to dream. Here rings, it means a sound which is repeated. Echo, it means repeat. Lament, it means complaint. Mind-numbing, it means boring. Toil, it means physical hard work done to earn a living. This problem was prevalent in all the homes which carried on the profession of glass bangles making. They did not know anything else other than bangle making, and it did not even provide them enough to eat. The young man who had entered the traditional profession had also the same complaint. With the passing time, there was no improvement in their condition. As they had been doing hard work for countless number of years, they did not have any ability to do something else or to dream of it. Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trapped their fathers and forefathers. Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be holed up by the police, beaten and dragged to jail for doing something illegal, they say. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. They talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. Here vicious, it means cruel. Hold up, it means dragged or taken away. The writers suggest them to to form a cooperative. She talked to a group of young men to get out of the clutches of the cruel middlemen who had trapped their elders. The man said that if they dared to do something like that, they would be dragged and beaten up by the police and sent to jail. Their acts would be termed to be unlawful. The writer felt that as they had no leader, they could not think of doing things differently. They all were so tired, the men and their fathers. Here, spiral, it means a never-ending continuous process. Apathy, it means lack of concern. Greed, it means intense and selfish desire for something. Here the man complained that it was a continuous process. Their poor condition led to lack of concern for their problems. This made them greedy and led to injustice. Now, listening to them, I see two distinct worlds. One of the family caught in a web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. The other a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middleman, the policeman, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. Together they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare. Here, distinct, it means separate. Stigma, it means dishonor. Bureaucrats, it means government officials. Imposed, it means forced upon. Baggage, it means burden. To dare, it means to do something courageously. Here the writer envisioned that there were two separate worlds. One was of such families who were stuck in poverty and the pressure of doing the traditional profession according to the caste in which they were born. The other world is a never-ending cycle of moneylenders, middlemen, policemen, law-keepers, government officials and politicians. Both of these worlds had forced the young boys to follow the family traditions. The young boys get into the profession and become a part of the vicious cycle even before they realize it. If they did anything else, it meant that they were challenging these two worlds. And daring is not part of his growing up. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered. I want to be a motor mechanic, he repeats. We'll go to a garage and learn. But the garage is a long away from his home. I'll walk, he insists. Do you also dream of flying a plane? He is suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground in his small murmur. There is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. He is content to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. Few airplanes fly over Firozabad. Here, hurtling down, it means moving around. In these lines, the boys had not been reared up to be bold so that they could dare to go against the system. The writer was happy to sense that Mukesh had the spark in him. He repeated that he would be a motor mechanic. He wanted to go to a garage and learn the job. The writer asked that, as the garage was at a distance from his home, Mukesh insisted that he would walk up to it. She asked him if he dreamed of flying planes. The boy became silent and refused. He did not know about them as he did not know about planes. Not many planes flew over Firozabad as he had only seen cars moving around in Firozabad. His dreams were restricted up to them. So here our second part of this chapter is completed. In this chapter, the author tells us stories of her interactions with children from deprived backgrounds. She described their poor condition and life in an interesting manner. The story touches the reader and is thought-provoking. The author described two of her encounters with children from deprived backgrounds. Through them, she wants to highlight the plight of street children forced into labor early in life and are denied the opportunity of schooling. Also, she brings out the callousness of society and the political class towards the suffering of the poor. The first encounter is with a rag picker boy named Sahib-e-Alam who migrated from Bangladesh in 1971 and lives in Simapuri in Delhi. These rag picker children look for valuables in the garbage things like a coin or torn shoes which are as precious as gold for them. They could hardly manage some food for themselves. Other things like identity, education, shoes, and sports are their unfulfilled dreams. Their parents scrounge the garbage searching for things which help them survive, afford food, clothing, and shelter for the family. The children hunted through the garbage heaps looking for things which could partially fulfill their unfulfilled dreams. One day the writer saw a boy holding a steel can going towards the milk booth. He had got a job at a tea stall. He was happy that he would get 800 rupees and all the meals. The writer noticed that Sahib had lost the freedom of being his own master, which he had enjoyed as a rag picker. The second boy was Mukesh, who belonged to a family of bangle makers in Firozabad. The boy had a dream of becoming a car mechanic. On the contrary, his family was traditionally engaged in bangle making, although the profession harmed them physically and they hardly earned any money out of it. Still, no one dared to dream of doing something else due to the fear of the police and the middleman. The family elders were content that other than teaching the art of bangle making to their children, they had been able to build them a house to live in. The boy wanted to be a car mechanic. Cars were all that Mukesh had seen on the roads of his town, and so he could not dream any further.